Hello, it's Mary. Welcome back to the channel. I have so much fun to share with you today. I'm going to be making 6 different cards using stencils that are layered and a couple layered stamps. So I'm very excited about this because stencils are one of my favorite products in all of crafting, and we are going to have a blast with the layering bit about these. Okay, so I'm showing you what I'm using here. I'm using the Sizzix line of stencils. Now there's 4 stencils in each of those packs. I'm also using some Sizzix stamps. Whatever you have, if in particular this video is going to highlight layering products, but pull out what you have, craft along, because the thing is, I always have a hard time labeling these videos because I like to share tips and tricks holistically. So along the way and throughout the video, I like to throw extra things in there for you to make crafting more fun and easy. I am going to show you real quick, those of you that have the stencil and stamp tool, maybe you haven't opened it out of the box yet. I'm just going to do a very quick setup demo here. Put a timestamp on the screen as to where you can skip ahead if you want to just jump right into the card making. So this stencil and stamp tool is pretty darn cool. First thing that you're going to want to do is lay out your double-sided stick it, I guess, paper. It's going to be sticky on both sides. This is what's going to hold your stencils and your paper in place. Actually, the notches on the stencil and stamp tool holds your stencil in place, but this will hold your cardstock while you're doing your projects. So you're going to pull off both sides, and then this is the stencil apparatus. That's going to be sort of the adapters should you have different size stencils, maybe lengthwise or whatnot, or you want to move your stencil around on your paper instead of moving your paper. So that's another reason for this adapter. But I am just going to be using pretty much throughout the video, except for the first card, not use the adapter. And then this is the cover plate that's going to help you with your stamping, your perfect stamping. So you can just stamp as many times as you want, just like any other stamp tool you've probably seen on the market. Okay, so let's get right into card number 1. Okay, so the first tip I want to share that's not exclusive to stenciling or stamping is don't forget about color cardstock and oxide inks. Pigment or oxide inks are going to sit on top of your paper, which means you can use pretty much any colored cardstock you want and then put that oxide ink on top of it. So I had a hard time when I was trying to figure out how did I want to do this first card, because I wanted the accents on the card to be white. I wanted the moon and the snow to be white. And so I was having a difficult time if I started with white cardstock. So I decided I'm just going to start with the darker blue cardstock and see where that takes me. And then as I'm going through this, I'm remembering how great oxide inks are for your color cardstock. So don't dismiss that too quickly. That's going to be working really well. I am going to be able to get a lot of different colors on this blue dark cardstock. Actually kind of surprised me. I didn't think that some of these colors would show up in the way that they did. So that was pretty awesome. You can see how easy it is with these stencils, particularly how I'm just taking one off, putting the next on. As far as logistics go, I just kept them dirty as I was going through, especially if I'm going to do mass production. There's no reason to keep cleaning off stuff over and over again. And you can probably still use some of that ink that you had on there and use it onto your next project. So you can kind of pull some of that ink from the dirty stencil too. So don't forget that that's a possibility too. Now right here, this is the final stencil in the grouping, and I just could not get this color right. I was struggling. I didn't like this light color. I wanted it darker. I went back and did another dark blue, and then I finally settled on sort of like, this is the second blue, and then I settled on adding a bit of black to it. I feel like it was what I was going for more. I felt like this blue was almost too bright. And so, so I added some black, and then I was happy with it. And I have to say, again, oxides never cease to amaze me. They're so great. And they showed up really, really well on this dark color cardstock. So there's the final of the stenciling. Now I have to decide how I'm going to use this on a card project. So I decide that I'm going to have this one be an A2 size card. So you'll see me start to pull that or cut that down. And I'm just going to pull this off of my mat there, cut it down, just trim it down to the size that I want. And that's pretty much going to be it for this card. I do add a sentiment, so we'll do that as well. Pulling back out my tool to use for the stamping portion of it, and you can pretty much put that anywhere you want onto your the flat part with the sticky sheet. And then just like any other tool, again, if you've never seen this or used this yet, very simple to use. So I'm going to stamp out the Winter Wishes, I think it's called, stamp for this sentiment. I'm just going to use some white craft ink. I wanted to actually heat emboss that with some white embossing powder, but I felt like that would have been too much of a mess because my oxides were probably still dry. So I could have let them dry, could have heat embossed it. I think that would really brighten up that Winter Wishes stamp right there. But again, I really like this card. I almost think it's like a soft, subdued, that's a winter scene. So it's great because it doesn't have to be for the holidays. So that finishes up that portion of it. Then I'm going to adhere that to my card base. Like I said, I'm using an A2 size, which is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 side. And just as a pro tip, I have all of my bases already pre-cut and scored and off to the side so that when it's time to put the card together, that's one less step that I have to do. I did a video recently on how to get your crafty mojo back should you lose it, and one of the tips I say is to mass produce stuff that's mindless. And so sometimes if I don't really have any creative ideas, I'll just pull out a bunch of cardstock and make bases. And that's really been a helpful tip to kind of release the stress and the pressure from having to design a particular thing. So there's card number 1 with a few tips and the main reminder of using that oxide ink on colored cardstock. For this next card, I'm actually not going to show you the stenciling. It's very simple and similar to the last one. Just 4 different stencils, but they're going to give you this beautiful overlay look where you can use different colors to make different parts of those snowflakes pop. So I really love this stencil as well. And then I just finished it off with some sparkle and literally making the word sparkle sparkle with embossing powder that has glitter in it. All right, let's head back to the craft desk where I'm going to be playing with some layered stamps. One thing I really like about the difference between both of these layered stamps is, one, you have to be more deliberate with, and the other you do not. So the snowflakes, you can just have fun. You can just kind of haphazardly do these and layer them however you want, versus the tree and the deer on the upper one. You kind of have to pay attention to what you're doing. So my greatest tip for layering stamps is to make sure you, A, look at the back of the package and see what they have kind of laid out for you, and B, to have all of your all of your ink colors already picked out before you head into it. I know that seems like a simple recommendation, but it can be, I don't know, it can be a little overwhelming when you're like, well, what's supposed to go where and what color's next and this and that. So that's kind of what I'm saying is get a lay of the land before you start stamping. This stamp is cool because it also has the outline of the stamps. So I'm stamping the tree in the color and then I'm actually doing the outline. So you can do that in either sequence. You can stamp the outline first and then color it in with your ink. What I really like about that too is you can also stamp the image and color it with whatever markers you want as well. So I do like that they added that. So I'm going to have a lot of fun with these cards to finish them off. So let's start with the snowflake card. We'll finish that one first. So I go back in, now I'm freehanding because I find that I want to do a background. I'm going to be able to do this much quicker with a freehand stamp block. And so I grab that out and stamp it in sticky white ink because I'm going to do some heat embossing. I'm going to add heat embossing to the center of each of those snowflakes as one of the layers and also all over the background. So once I get that done, I think this is pretty. If you stop right there, that's a clean and simple. And you can probably pop a sentiment on there and it looks really pretty. But I'm actually going to add a little bit more. Now, this next tip here is one of my favorite illusion tips. And that is when you start with a white cardstock, what you're going to do to be able to get this really glowy effect right in the center of that card is to start ink blending from the outside in and using a very light color. So my first color was really light and I brought that in a little bit over the entire cardstock, but not so much in the center. I really kind of left it as light as I possibly could. Then a medium color, and then obviously don't bring that in as far, and then the black. The black is what really makes that shadow look pop. And so this is one of my favorite techniques to use with my inks to get this look. And you can start this on any colored cardstock you want. It doesn't have to be white, and you're going to get that beautiful kind of glow in the center of the card. So that's a great technique to try out. Okay, let's go back to the deer card. And what I'm going to do is take out one of the stamps. It's a very little stamp. It looks like snowflakes. And I'm going to just go crazy and put it all over the background. Almost like this was patterned cardstock before I even stamped on it, which is great. And this is a very forgiving tip and technique to do, because you can put the snow right over your stamped images if you wanted. So once I get that stamped out like it looks like snow, I'm just going to stamp a very simple Christmas sentiment right there in the center of that. I am going to finish off this card with some glitter glue. I believe I used STENCILS on this one to go over the tree and then over the little, I guess, the snow right underneath the deer feet. And so there we go. You can see that up close. That one was super fun to finish off. All right, let's go back to the craft desk here, where we are going to make probably my favorite result card. And what I mean by that is there's one card I enjoyed making the most, and there's one that I love to look at the most at the end. This is the one I love to look at the most. I think it came out so pretty. So I'm going to take two different kinds of red to make my ornaments here. And I'm going, while on this first stencil, don't just go flat. You don't have to go flat with your ink. Start off with one color, bring in a darker color, and make some shading. That is a really easy and fun way to give your card dimension. So already these ornaments look like they're coming to life. The second tip I have for here is don't think conventionally. You don't have to use ink to fill out all your stencils. I'm actually outlining the stencil right now with a gold marker. So I'm going to do that because it's something different. I don't have to, and if I wanted to, I could use ink to color this up, which oxide would be best for that, but I'm just going to outline it. And now I have this really pretty gold accent on my layered stencil. So that's the second stencil. The third stencil I'm going to bring in here, I'm actually going to use some ink because these are very small pieces of this picture, if you will, and they're just going to be basically where the tops are, the bows, right? So now you're getting additional dimension because they've given you different stencils. So again, really love layering stencils, but you can do a lot of this too without having layering stencils. Just keep that in mind. This last part here, I'm actually going to use my embossing dauber. So my embossing dauber is going to be sticky embossing ink in sort of like a tube. So you're going to see me use that here. And what that's going to do is this last stencil for this 4-piece stencil is actually quite a bit of the accents. So I have the string, the little metal thing that holds the ornament right at the top. And then a couple other pieces onto the ornament. So you're going to see. So this is my embossing dauber, or I think it's called a dabber. I've been calling it a dauber. Does it matter? No, it does not. So I'm going to get that nice and inky there. And I'm going to use gold embossing powder. Now this is, I believe this is the glitter gold by Brunus Monroe. And then I'm going to heat set that. So I had to go back and fix, I think I left off the top string or the middle string there, but I went back and fixed that. And here we go. Now I have the gold marker that outlined it, and I have, the silver marker that outlined, and then the gold embossing powder. That's how it went. And it really, really adds so much to your card. Oh, my little ladybug is making an appearance here in this video. My little mini vacuum there. Love that thing. Okay, back to the card here. So there we go. That's pretty much the finished background. I thought it was so fun. I just love all the dimension, and you really wouldn't think that was, I guess, handmade, right? It's a stencil, but still handmade. All right, let's make a sentiment here. So I'm going to take one of those colors. This is the Merlot in the Catherine Pooler, and just swipe it right on my cardstock. But I want to heat set it first because I'm going to be using gold embossing powder on this, and I don't want it to stick all over the red. So I am going to heat set that, and here I'm testing it out. Put a little powder, put a little embossing powder on there. The first one was anti-static powder, and then shake it off. And if it comes off, you're ready to emboss. Going back to my tool, I'm going to do all those things. I just skipped on the stamping because you know I stamped it. Stamp it out, get some embossing powder on there, and then heat set it. So another tip for your card making, Get out of the box of traditional sentiments. Do something fun. Do something that coordinates the color palette with what you've already done. That's another way to get more out of what you're doing. And so I'm just going to bubble cut that. I call it bubble cut because I'm cutting right around the sentiment in the form of the font. And I'm just going to stick this right down. I did not want to take up too much space on this card at all because I wanted most of it to show through. So very thin, simple sentiment right there on the middle. I'm going to add a few, I guess they're like pearls that are gold, this way right to all three of those ornaments just to give it some three-dimensional look. So that finishes off that card. Love this one. This one was so fun to make. I'm going to be this will probably be my staple holiday card for the season. I'm into it. I like it a lot. You'll notice my cards are actually sized 5 by 5. I probably should have said that. They are 5 by 5. This way it gives me a little wiggle room of a little bit bigger if I want to make some matting and things like that. Let's go to the card that I had the most fun making. I know I just said the last one was super fun to make because it was. This one was so fun to do. I don't know why, but I think as I was filling it out, it's just plaid, folks. I mean, we're not like, solving the world's problems here in the craft room, but it was a blast. Every time I put a stencil down, because I went green, light red, dark green, dark red. And every time I did that, I was like, ooh, what am I going to get? It was just like a surprise for my own self. And it was just a good time. So I go through all 4 of these stencils. And again, like I said before, if you're going to mass produce these, just keep them dirty with ink. You don't have to keep cleaning them off. You're using the same brushes for them, you're fine. All right. And then this is where I sort of got to see like the coolness factor because of this dark Merlot red. And then when you pull that off, you can kind of see all of those bits come together. It's just so pretty. Oh, and I did do a little bit of shading with each of the colors, meaning I put it heavier on one side than the other. So that gave it a little bit of dimension. Very simple sentiment to finish this off. I'm actually going to make a thank you card because I don't have enough thank you cards. And I also think we need a lot of thank you cards during the holiday season. So I am going to just stamp that out. I used the Merlot ink again, just to kind of keep it all coordinating. And then the fun thing about this card, something I did that I didn't do with any of the other ones, was that I did matte it. So I actually matted it on some green, dark green, hunter green like cardstock. You'll see that in a second. I'm actually going to pop this one up on some foam tape. That is another added piece of dimension for my card. Again, it's that notch up from buying it store-bought. Not that there's anything wrong with store-bought cards. I'm just saying that this is what separates those cards. Although they are coming up with some really good ideas out there, I have to say. They're kind of leveling up in some regard. But there's nothing like a handmade card. But I love all cards, just so everybody knows. I know people know I make cards and then they're like at work and stuff like they're afraid to send me a card. Because they think it's not going to measure up. I say all cards are great. If you're sending me a greeting, I'm happy in whatever form it comes. All right, so that'll do it for this video. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. If the particular products I used in the video were of interest to you, you can find those links, as always, in the description box below. And I just want to extend a thank you to all of you who are constantly filling me up with encouragement and support and love and just positivity. So thank you for that. I always enjoy heading to the comment section to hear your thoughts. So as always, I want you to put in the comments below which one was your favorite, which one would you like to try and looks the most fun. And I will see you in the comments below and in the next video. Bye-bye. If you like this video, I think you might like these on the screen as well. So check them out.